Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Evangelical Dark Web. Tonight is our year-end live stream. We've been doing this for now 5 years, going back to 2021, when Evangelical Dark Web started putting out more regular content, I think. So, year-end live stream. We've often kicked it off with the top 10 stories of the year, but we're not doing that this year because we did that in a previous video this week. So, in actuality, we're just going to get started with the awards for this year. So, if you're in the chat, you are free to make some floor nominations from the Peanut Gallery, and I think that'll be very worthwhile to the contributions of the live stream. Definitely want to interact with a lot of chat tonight because it's a little bit more informal of a live stream than we typically do. However, there is one thing that there is some serious business that I want to address, and I have some important announcements for the future of Evangelical Dark Web uh, that I'll do at the end of the live stream. So there's one incentive to stick around because there's some important announcements about the future. I think it's all good announcements, but nevertheless, it is something that is important and should be given an announcement. So some of them are pretty exciting. So anyway, how are you doing tonight?
Yep, all is well. End of the year is upon us. It's been a pretty good year overall for myself. So, glad to end it on a positive note with a fun stream.
Yeah, I can't say that it's definitely been an eventful year for me. And even recapping it, all these categories, I had a much harder time than years past when it came to all the categories that we have to, have like nominations for and stuff like that. Uh, Even like the top 10 stories was much more difficult for me because like finding 10 was actually harder for me this year.
Yeah,
Some years it's
20.
like I have to narrow down 13 to 10, like some stories are getting the chopping block treatment, but this year it's like you're trying to find a top 10 list for stories. You're trying to find like what really stood out this year because there's a lot of mediocrity out there in some of the categories that we're going to discuss tonight. So,
Yeah,
uh,
2020 was mainly, or 2025 was mainly a year of trends. So, a lot of the stories we covered were probably just ongoing macro trends that have been happening. The bird revival has been a macro trend. So, you're seeing a lot of these conversions that have happened and a lot of these high profile confessions of faith that have happened. Those are all, again, all of it's the same story. It's just different individuals, different pieces.
right. And, a lot of the stories, again, Nigerian persecution, that's been going on, but that definitely reached a new level of importance in 2025 that maybe should have gotten earlier uh, than it did. So, let's kick off with our categories of the year. And if you would be so kind in the audience to smash that like button. I think that helps out with the YouTube algorithms when it comes to live streams. I don't think it works for regular videos, but liking does work for live streams, I think. But the least you can do is like the video and subscribe to the channel, to the podcast if you are new otherwise. I know new subscriptions are the best thing for a YouTube video. That is just proven over and over again. So, with that said, first category is always best teacher. Now, this one I really don't have much for, but I know you have something for this. So, who do you have?
So this one I put down Michael Foster because I think he's doing a lot of like the heroes work inside the PCA and like fighting for the orthodoxy of the PCA and making a bold stance while also just doing his job as a local church pastor and an online presence. So I think he's done a lot of positive work this year, and I think that kind of warrants him as the best teacher. Again, it's not to say that he's uniquely better than all the others that are doing great work on the internet, but I do think he did a lot of standout work on the PCA and the women's ordination issues that are happening in that denomination that I think warrant a best teacher nomination.
I think that's a very strong case, especially since he went into the PCA after being someone who was a bit of a champion of post denominationalism. I kind of want to say he came out of that vein. I believe he famously left the correct denomination. So now he's fighting for the PCA, which I think the PCA is the most salvageable of the large denominations in the United States. It is the largest and most salvageable denomination, in my opinion. I do not have nearly as much confidence in the Southern Baptist Convention, who I guess would be the second most salvageable, maybe. I don't know. It's tough to say because the liberals own the Southern Baptist Convention, and they've literally secure it. They've secured it and solidified it. They own the executive committee. They have, which they did not used to own until they waived attorney-client privilege. But Michael Foster and his contention for the PCA, especially when the PCA is it's full of Kellerites, followers of Tim Keller who are driving the denomination in a liberal direction. So Kellerites is actually relevant to my announcement later in the stream, by the way. So there's some foreshadow. Anyway, yeah, I think Michael Foster can take that. Um, yes, good nomination. Worst teacher. Who do you have for that? I do have a nomination for this. I think it'll win. I think it'll beat out your nomination if you disagree with me.
Well,
So
I,
let's
I
see.
am sticking to the Presbyterian theme, and I'm going with Benjamin Glaser of the ARP. He is the guy that wrote the I call it the ARP statement. Basically, it's an anti-white statement that's supposed to condemn so-called white supremacy. I think it's basically targeting people like Stone Choir, and they got all the Presbyterian denominations to adopt this statement that is very poorly written. It is a violation of the Westminster Confession because you are basically you are using the synods and the councils to address political issues and political thought rather than Christian thought or doctrine. And again, it's fundamentally false. Like, I don't think you can actually create a faith statement that condemns people using secular definitions that you cannot adopt on your own. Like white supremacy, if you had to go back, if you actually had to use the ADL's definition of white supremacy, which contains 4 tenets, all 4 of those tenets, which would include genetic, which would include separatist, which would include like white people should be ruling in nations that they created and founded, which makes a lot of sense. Like these are all considered so-called white supremacy, or just like separatism, which again, white flight is separatism. But all these things would be, if you had to back test your theological claim, you're condemning everyone like before 1950 of sin, of a made up sin. So I mean, and this actually did have tangible effects on Presbyterian polity in all the denominations in the United States.
Whew, that was a pretty strong case, actually. I was not expecting that because I knew about this statement, but I honestly didn't pay attention to it that much. I know you wrote an article or two about it.
Well, I have one article. It's kind of in the queue.
My nomination was the obvious J.D. Greer. J.D. Greer is a horrendous shepherd of a local church that is a multi-megachurch empire in North Carolina in the Raleigh-Durham area, which is huge and vastly growing as far as an area goes. And he tried to conspire with the elders of a local church to run their church into bankruptcy so that he could acquire their assets for pennies on the dollar in a liquidation event. And because nonprofit liquidations have to go to nonprofits, I believe in most cases, like that's how the dissolution of those organizations work. That was J.D. Greer's scheme to expand and get a franchise location in Knightdale, North Carolina. And this was only exposed because of the faithful remnant at that church. And J.D. Greer threw in the towel because he was about to be deposed the next day. So J.D. Greer quit and lost because he did not want to get deposed under oath, which that would have been exciting to have had a deposition of J.D. Greer on file. But it's also good to that he lost. And I think this whole scandal, because this is really a scandal, it is a huge instance of corruption, merits him being worst teacher, especially since the Gospel Coalition and other like organizations have come out to circle the wagons in defense of J.D. Greer's egregious behavior. So it's definitely an instance of corruption in evangelicalism that is highlighted by the tolerance of this evil act that J.D. Greer was doing. So I man, that's tough because you put up a good counter argument to that
Well, I guess
with Ben
the big
Glazer.
question on JD Greer is how much of that happened in 2025 as far as his.
Uh, the conclusion of the case happened in 2025. So that part happened earlier this year. A lot of the scheme was ongoing, but it did climax this year when it ended when he lost in court. And uh, so I do think it's a 2025 story. But I understand that the Ben Glazer thing is entirely 2025, and I think you're right. Like is definitely he definitely proved to be a malevolent force in this. Man, that is tough. You've given me something to think about with this. Uh, you have any other final argument for Ben Glazer?
I mean, again, the notion that you can sin by you can sin by association by omission, like the stupidity of the language in his statement and the ambiguity. And again, it's basically to target white people trying to collectivize for their own self-interest amidst amidst mass immigration destroying their communities, and of course, black crime. But and again, those are two of the largest issues that are affecting the American people today. As I mean, again, didn't make our top 10 list, but apart from the immigration stories, but you also had a lot of let's just say fatigue with certain communities, especially the ones that slash white women on through the neck on a train. But Ben Glazer would basically say, yeah, you can't insinuate that there's genetic predispositions or other circumstances that might have contributed to that crime.
Yeah, I mean, is it one of those things that's almost too stupid that it'll have no effect on the PCA and other like denominations? What are your
My
thoughts on that?
my concern is that it will mainly affect ordination of new clergy. So people, again, you got a lot of like right wing guys that are probably in the seminary system, so they're trying to weed those people out. So I think that's where a lot of the threat comes in, is they're going to use statements like that to basically weaponize against young right wing pastor candidates.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what the Creek was trying to do with using the Antioch statement. And, that was Doug Wilson's intention, was to use the Antioch Declaration as a cudgel against and test of fellowship, right? So you're saying that it's likely to do that in these denominations.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that that is a possibility,
You know what?
because
I'll
again,
give.
a lot of these organizations, they will tolerate any sort of left wing like liberalism. They're going to tolerate PCA churches having women shepherdesses, which shepherd, like the literal translation of pastor is shepherd. Yet that's tolerated. They'll tolerate female deacons, even though those are violations. And what they tolerate, they get more of. The LCMS will tolerate openly like homosexual affirming pastors until it becomes too big of an issue.
Yes, and we had a story about that earlier this month, I believe.
Yeah.
All right, I'll give Ben Glazer the credit for worst teacher, and church hero is our next
And
category.
I'll add another
Okay.
thing is I think he wrote a book or some kind of like long essay that he published, and I hear that it is awful, but I've only heard that secondhand.
Okay, so 2 for 2 so far. Church hero. I think Charlie Kirk is my nomination for church hero of the year.
Yeah, this one was obvious though. If I wanted, and because he was kind of the glue that kept a lot of like, Christian evangelicalism together and also like political conservatism together. And obviously, those two things are very much hand in hand. He was kind of a very ecumenical figure, which again, a model for how Christians should operate in the political sphere. Again, the parallel to this, if I wanted to do a runner up on church hero, would probably be William Wolfe, who I think is very much a Charlie Kirk figure within American Christianity. Because you don't see him starting fights on Twitter. You don't see him getting into the weeds of various disputes and camps between Doug and
The only people
Joel.
he's really fighting hard is like Mike Cosper of Christianity Today.
Which
But
again,
yeah, yeah, it
he is
goes
an
to your
enemy
point.
asset.
He is an enemy. Yes.
And
So
again, he is the model for how Christians should be engaging in the public forum.
yeah, I
If
mean,
I wanted to do a runner up to Charlie Kirk.
so going back to Charlie Kirk, the guy was martyred for in part for his Christian faith. So I think that merits him being in the category of being a church hero. And I think his assassination was the biggest story of the year. So yeah, I think he's hero of the year, church hero of the year. I think that's kind of an easy slam dunk case, in my opinion. So church villain of the year. All right, this one I had 2 nominations. I have J.D. Greer, also nominated for Church Villain for aforementioned reasons, and then Babylon Bee.
Okay, we are aligned on the second one. I wrote down Joel Berry specifically, but it does
So
be said that the Babylon Bee as an institution still retains some legitimacy amongst like the boomer generation, and obviously their entire business model is kind of dependent on like Facebook traffic and like using almost like quick clickbait articles, or at least with Not to Be, which
yeah, I used to think that
steals
those were
meaning
more
from people.
separated than they actually were. But yeah, I'm not really convinced that they're all that separate. I do like the model of Not to Be in micro articles. I think that's ultimately a good thing, but yeah, overall, like the editorial nature of Not to Be is pretty cringe, and then
But it's
Babylon
the
Bee
fact
just
that
being like the standard bearer for Christian Zionism, organizationally in Conservative Inc. They're one of the standard bearers for that. You have Joel Berry actively saying that the Christians in Gaza deserved it because they supported Hamas anyway. So these are evil people. They shill for a foreign government. They shill for a pagan religion, and part of it is because they are, ethnically Jewish or whatever, and they just absolutely, they don't like America. They don't want America to be a nation, but they do have ethnic. They are supremacists for their preferred ethnos, which is Jewish people and Zionism, nationalism for thee, but not for the rest of us. So they are absolute hypocrites. They are evil people. Uh, do not like the Babylon Bee people. They sold out to be liked by Elon Musk, and it's been downhill ever since. Justin Peters was right about them. I do got to say that, even though, Justin Peters is unwilling to go to the wall on the other issues, but he was absolutely right about
and
Babylon
he was
B, and he
ahead.
was ahead of the curve on that. Uh, so well done on him. He deserves a W for calling that out. We both have Babylon B. Do you think that merits the consensus?
No, I would say it does. I mean, again, this is an
Okay.
institution, and again, Church Villain has often been like ahead of the curve as far as the
Yes.
nominations go. We
Year
had
one, we called out Francis
yes.
Collins before everyone else in evangelicalism was calling out Francis Collins. And I was calling him out all throughout like 2021 as well as an evil person. And then the rest of
I mean,
evangelicalism kind of caught
even
on to that.
James Lindsay being nominated for one, and again, that was before. That was kind of during his, I won't say his peak, but kind of.
Yeah, and that's the other thing about Babylon B that makes him reprehensible is the fact that they practice a friend-enemy distinction in which people that have saucy views on race are beyond the pale, but James Lindsay, who's pro-abortion, pro-homosexuality, has no basis to oppose transgenderism because he believes that sex and gender are two different concepts. Does not believe, in nations, does not believe, yeah, I don't even know what his views on a definition of race are. But James Lindsay is entirely woke, and he's pretending that he's not. He's just like, 2015 woke liberalism, someone who believes that amateur porn is liberty, someone who fell for COVID. Yeah, James Lindsay's an enemy. It's obvious. There's nothing, did he even vote for Trump in any of the elections? Like, I'm pretty sure he voted for Hillary Clinton. and maybe also Biden. I don't know. I don't really care about the Biden one, but yeah, well, he has nothing to contribute to the movement, and it's very obvious. That's just because you submitted some journal where you changed you just used the rhetorical parallels of Mein Kampf and put in woke things, and it didn't resemble Mein Kampf. Like people, glazed him for that when there's just no, you know, there's just nothing there. So there was never anything there with James Lindsay, and shame on everyone who propped him up. And for Babylon B to be the main James Lindsay disciples in the church, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, they're
they're
functionally the primary purveyors of James Lindsay's ideology, which is basically just failed liberalism that led us to here.
right, and they try to pretend that he is someone that Christians can be really work with. Um, Meanwhile, like actual Christians that have historically Christian views are not. So they're absolutely disgraceful. Next category, best church.
Best church. So I went with Reformation Church of Shelbyville, Kentucky. So they were a church we did an article on of them basically doing like an informal protest of the local public library of basically tossing the gay books into the trash can, stuff like that. And
In where, Kentucky?
Shelbyville.
Is that the same church that had Samuel Say speak at it? Because I think that kind of disqualifies them. My nomination is Faith Baptist Church, Knightdale, North Carolina, the church that defeated J.D. Greer in court. I think they earned Best Church of the Year for saving their church. They fought for their church. They said that this local church is worth it, and they won, and they defeated the evil Goliath in this case. So I think FBC Knightdale gets it. It's Faith Baptist Church, not First Baptist Church, Knightdale, North Carolina. So I think when you take on the best like that, you deserve it. You deserve to win.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair one. I'll have to concede without argument on that one.
Worst church, Summit Church, is my
So
nomination for J.D. Greer and all aforementioned reasons.
and just to comment, yeah, yes, that is Jerry Doris and Tanner Cartwright.
Maybe that's not the Samuel Say
No, it's
preach
not.
that. It's not okay. I heard Kentucky, and I assumed that it was near the Ohio border. So glad that we can correct that record. Um,
So I chose Grace DC, which is basically the home of Irwin Ince in the PCA. So everything that's wrong with the PCA could be summed up in this particular church. Obviously, they're anti-white with their pastoral staff. They have a female shepherdess who is the wife.
can you say the church again?
Grace DC.
Okay. Yes. Yes, I am familiar with this church. Yes.
So Irwin Ince, his wife serves as a shepherdess. This is the same church, and obviously Irwin Ince spoke at the blacks only event or the minority exclusive event in Oakland, and basically has fatigue from dealing with a majority white context, which is kind of strange given that you're in a denomination founded by British people. And this is also the church that had the pastor that went to Rome but was allowed to speak on that Sunday before the congregation. And then they pretty much got away with it because even though it was public information and publicly announced that the guy was taking a position at a Catholic school, they still allowed him to speak. And again, they pretty much have no accountability in the Presbyterian Church in America. And this church is the worst of the worst as far as the PCA goes.
You have a lot of PCA, lore to bring into this award show, and I like that. I'm just, I obviously, JD Greer has to win something, right? I mean, he's being the bridesmaid in this award show and not the bride. He's missed out on worst teacher because he got me there. He missed out on church villain, deservedly so. You went up against the Babylon Bee, and then Worst church. I mean, Grace DC, yes, that is a notoriously bad church in the PCA. I've done a lot of articles on them this year as well. So, man, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. Do you have anything else to add to that as far as you think this is Grace
Well,
DC's
I mean,
year?
this was a more unique year for them as far as scandals go, and Urban Ends being like a
Yeah,
bane of the PCA. I mean, Summit Church is just business as usual bad.
that is true. I mean, their villainy and trying to conspire to take over a smaller church, though, is pretty bad. But man, I imagine a lot more stuff like that goes on in megachurch circles, especially in the Southern Baptist Convention, because that denomination's full of some corruption. So let's go on to most overrated. I have a few nominations for this. I'll let you go first with your nominations.
So this one I actually
So
did.
Grace DC won that one. So okay, most overrated.
So this one I actually did put Allie Beth Stuckey on because again, the way she's being touted as like the female conservative like figure and penultimate figure is just kind of ridiculous. I mean, I don't really think she's as impactful. Obviously, she has a lot of her girl boss moments, her feminism, and is just very much an overrated figure in conservatism.
Yeah, what's interesting is that she's like flip flopped on like dispensationalism, or supposedly is flip flopped on dispensationalism. She's some changing theology. I think that that's true. Uh, Let me just add some of my categories. Most overrated. Here's some of my nominees. Caitlin Clark. She won last year. I think it was very fitting that she continues try to defend her title
I mean, she
because
got
she did
hurt.
absolutely nothing this year and it didn't make a difference for the team. So obviously, most overrated.
I
It
mean,
is kind of worthy.
the most overrated female basketball player is probably the Iowa State girl. That's like giant, like pretty much like
That's not overrated. That's
and
actually so
putting up 40.
comical.
And she puts up 41 points because she's just rotund and like no one can defend her, or they
That
don't
is
really understand
comical to
double
watch.
coverage
Yeah, it's comical to watch actually.
like
So
that. That's just
that's not overrated. Uh,
I mean,
like
they're
that.
literally feeding her the ball and also
Yes,
food.
she's gonna be the future belly of the WNBA as opposed to the future face. But anyway, Josh Howerton also should be mentioned here because this is a guy who's trying to be like a star pastor, but he's really just he knows which way the wind's going and is placating his message to that end. Josh Howerton is a fraud. He is the fakest based pastor on the internet.
And he's very much mimicking like a Mark Driscoll.
A little bit. He was in the comment section of Mark Driscoll the other day, so glazing Mark Driscoll's interview of Doug Wilson, actually. So yes, this is someone who has his finger in the wind. He went woke back in the day, and now he's trying to be like super based, but it's obviously fake. He's clearly pandering to where the culture is headed. So he needs to be listed. I don't know if he's the winner, but he definitely needs a dishonorable mention in this category. And last of all, I have Stranger Things. This is probably the most overrated TV series of all time, and it's climaxed this year, but apparently the season's not as well received as I would have thought it would be. But when I wrote down this nomination, but Stranger Things is one of the most overrated TV shows of all time. All I've heard is it's had one good season and it went downhill
That's
from
yeah,
there. That
that's
is the
true.
general consensus of the show. It's taken
Season 4 was
way too
absolute.
long
Season 4 was
to make.
garbage. And again, people glazed that season of the show because they basically did Metallica, Master of Puppets, which again they dubbed in the sound rather than like have it. I guess it's called
Diegetically, yeah,
diegetic sound,
diegetically.
where like they have Eddie play the song, but instead of him having to play the song, they just dub it in because it wouldn't sound the same, and people that actually understand music would know it doesn't sound the same. But a bunch of normies kind of slurped it up. Oh, look, Metallica, 1984 or whatever. And yeah, it was horrible. They literally did a pineapple on pizza bit, which was painful. And obviously, everyone's memeing the whole "I don't like girls" scene from the show. And they did that same scene, or not as bad, but still pretty bad scene in the car with like the gay guy like having a crush on his friend and like showing him this artwork, and then he just like doesn't care. Which that part at least was well written, I guess. But like it was so painful to get through that. And again, it's the Marvel Cinematic Universe writing style that Stranger Things pretty much adopted. And I guess that's why people like slurped it up, even though it sucked. And again, these
Yeah, and
episodes were
that's
like
what I'm
over
saying.
an
Like,
hour
Stranger
long.
Things is the most overrated cultural phenomenon in the last 10 years. Like, name a more overrated television show in the last 10, even 15, 20 years. You can't. Because Breaking Bad, properly rated. Sopranos, properly rated. Game of Thrones, properly rated because of that ending. Better Call Saul, if I didn't mention that, I think is properly rated.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that people had high expectations on Stranger Things, I can see why it would be a candidate for overrated, because you shouldn't have had expectations for it because it had one good season. Season 4 was garbage. They also retconned the entire plot because, again, season 1 is it's a Cold War plot based on government experiments experiments which the government actually did perform with psychics. And season 4 is also like, yeah, there's actually this big bad who we're after the entire time, which again, they retconned the entire show.
I mean,
And people were completely okay with that, apparently.
you make a point. Mandalorian was extremely overrated also. That would be the only other remotely overrated TV show, but Mandalorian fell off in season 3. Like, no one
It
paid
never
attention.
really was good in
Okay,
season 1
no, I
either.
mean, like, in terms of hype. The hype fell off in season 3. I think that's very clear. Season 1, yeah, it was average, and at the time, average was good. And it was the best Star Wars that Disney had put out at that time. Because I'm not a Rogue One fan, because of that Rogue One is a retcon, and then
It also wastes a lot of talented actors.
yeah, and it doesn't focus on the most interesting aspects of its story. Um, and then season 2 of Mandalorian was horrendous. It was absolutely horrendous. Uh, Getting to the end, which was the only interesting part, but man, getting to I do not binge watch TV shows. I binged watched Mandalorian because I wanted to be done with this nonsense. That is how bad Mandalorian season 2 was, that I binge watched it to get it over with. So, because I don't binge watch TV, I have too much self control, or I start watching TV shows at 2 o'clock in the morning, so I don't have time. But anyway, back to Stranger Things. I do think that as a cultural phenomenon, it was overrated the entire time, or at least past season 1, and people put it in the GOAT category
Yeah, I
when
mean,
it was
it
clearly
should
not
have
worthy.
been as well received or even as like emphasized as Witcher season 4, which basically came and went with zero fanfare and only bad reviews.
So I think that's my strongest nomination for most overrated, because I think it as a cultural phenomenon, it is worthy of the award. I don't know if you can see to that one.
I mean, again, unless we wanted to do Ali Batsaki as overrated in terms of
You know, and she can get nominated for another award that's coming up.
fair enough.
So that's a new category, by the way, because we occasionally add new categories to the award show. So, all right, underrated. What is the most underrated thing of the year? Because I had a hard time with this one.
So this one, I nominate Jay Burden, who does a podcast on YouTube, Spotify. He basically set off to do his own full time podcasting this year, and obviously he is what the kids call a face fag now. And rather than hiding behind hiding his face behind I guess an icon or image. And again, he does a great show, very much a variety podcast stream, and he's like the least professional podcaster you'll find on the internet. Has a lot of interesting guests, a lot of interesting content, and some of it is just absolutely hysterical. So,
I will allow it. I don't have a nomination for this
and
one.
again, he's someone
I'll
that
allow it.
just started off doing full-time podcasting.
It's very easy for me to come up with the most overrated, but man, coming up with the most underrated was a little bit hard this year. Um, Most underreported. So this is like a story that did not get enough attention that it should have. And I'm having a hard time with this one as well, because first of all, on one hand, anything to do with the H1B scam, I think is underreported.
But at the
Uh,
same time, it got a lot of press this year.
yeah, foreign truckers, I think, is a little bit underreported, but at the same time, it did get a lot of press. I do think some of the wins of the Trump administration are probably underreported.
That's where I went with this. I went with
Okay.
the decrease in crime because I think that's a tangible issue that Trump has and the administration haven't quite emphasized in their messaging. Obviously, going into a midterms, that would be a good time to ramp up that a lot of those messages that their actions have tangibly reduced crime. The National Guard in DC has reduced crime. Same thing with some of the other cities they've been able to stage those units in. Because again, cities like Memphis were some of the most violent places in America, and it's a disgrace. And again, I was in DC over the weekend. It's just like, yes, it's very nice to be in DC these days, especially by the National Mall. You can actually enjoy America's capital. And
And that's because of the National Guard presence.
um, in part, yes, but yeah, the city is a lot nicer just being in. You don't mind going there. But yeah, he actually has reduced the crime, and I think that's a huge accomplishment. Obviously, drug trafficking has also been reduced, and they're taking a much
Border crossings have been reduced, and that's one of the biggest things is that we're not just processing illegals that invade our country.
and
And in
call
many cases, the Biden administration was legalizing them, giving them paperwork so they're not undocumented, as they would call them. Um, but even though most illegal aliens were well documented, especially if they have a record of crime in this country. But yeah, I think things like the border, like mass deportations, the machine will take time to build, right, to get that infrastructure in place. But stopping the border crossings is like the number one thing that you have to do is stop the leak before you get the water out of the basement. So I think that's also an underreported aspect. I think, yeah, I think the W's of the Trump administration are being underemphasized. Part of it's bad messaging. This is one from the chat. Chinese bioweapons killing American crops like foreign
No, I
oranges.
mean the problem is these
Yeah,
invaders actually are themselves bioweapons. If it's not the Chinese bringing in whatever mold or blight or bug, it's like the Indians basically existing and crapping on our streets. It's the Sikh truck drivers where it's every single time that they just like try to do a U-turn in a median of a highway
which
when
is
there's like,
illegal.
yes,
uh,
it's
all right, so I'll do decrease in crime and other Trump administration W's. Overreported. What do you have for this?
I'm
Last
going
year,
to
women's basketball won, so I've renominated it to defend its title on the most overreported thing
because it
because let's
shouldn't be
face it,
reported at
should
all.
not be reported.
And
But
quite frankly, it shouldn't even exist as a sport, at
ouch.
least not on a professional level, because they're not very good.
Well, it's not profitable and it's been subsidized. The league exists as a charity for the
And when again,
NBA.
there's no fat dudes in D1 in like a major Power Five school that are just putting up 41 points a game and being called an athlete. Like that doesn't exist at a Power Five level.
But along my lines, like one of the things that is maybe disqualifies women's basketball from this subject is the green dildos being thrown onto the court. I think that might disqualify them from being
Yeah,
over-reported
yeah, more dildo,
because
more dildos than dunks.
yes, um, that is um, that is like the most newsworthy thing about the
Yeah, there actually was
WNBA.
something newsworthy.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
I went controversial on this one.
Um,
I went with Jeffrey Epstein because I think at this point Jeffrey Epstein is just fodder, and it really probably isn't as much there as we are
I think
led to believe,
I
and
think
it's
the
so much
there is the
less.
Mossad
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
connections.
that's
It's
there,
not
but
the sexual aspects of the story. It's the foreign intelligence aspects of the story.
yes,
And that's
but
what's probably in the redacted documents is those details.
well, again, it's almost a conspiratorial slop pipeline. It's like you instead of like focusing on what the actual scandal was, which is still pretty scandalous, him being a Mossad agent and like a foreign influencer, and basically throwing lavish parties to like you know show people a good time and again, you don't need to blackmail people. You just need to like show them a good time and make them want to keep being invited to the cool kids party. And that's what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. I mean, you can't like blackmail certain politicians, and it might not be as effective as a tactic. But instead, you're going to overextend the conspiracy and overplay your hand. And instead of it just being a foreign influence operation, which is already still bad, now it's like everyone's a pedo that's ever been on his plane and ever like bumped shoulders with him. And like, oh, Trump is a pedo, even though it's like a picture with him and his daughter. I think it's beyond been overplayed. It's taken up way too much airspace for a dead guy. He's been dead for what, since 2018, 2019.
I do
So
think that this is an important conversation to have. Is the Epstein story overreported? Is it overemphasized? Because
yes,
that is what
to
this
the
award is about.
point.
Is it about something that's properly emphasized or something that's overemphasized? That is the point of this
To the
award.
extent where it has been a distraction for both the administration, for Congress, for a lot of the conservative media apparatus. They're not focusing on actual issues that are affecting the people today, because nothing Epstein is doing or has done affects us today. And
I think
again,
there's some truth to that, but I do think the biggest thing is people like Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, people who peddled in conspiracies, and I'm not weighing in on whether the conspiracies are valid or invalid. That's not my point. My point is that they went into the federal government with a certain opinion about the Epstein case, and then they changed their mind on the Epstein case after being in power. That's a little suspicious. I think there are some valid things to the story. Here's my overreported nomination that I didn't mention: Shador Sanders. Most overreported phenomenon in sports of the year, I think.
I mean, prime sexuals. It kind of makes sense. It does write itself.
Even this past Sunday, he sucked. The Steelers' defense was bad in the first quarter and gave him a free touchdown, but after the first quarter, he was terrible. Uh, he's not a good quarterback, and I'm tired of pretending that he is. So that, I think, is one of the most overreported stories. But I understand if you exist in sports media, you put them in the thumbnail because that gets clicks. So I do understand the
I
game
mean,
of
because to
sports
some
media for
extent,
that
it
to
might
that
be
extent.
it might be somewhat of a racial proxy war issue. So in that sense, it might not be overrated. Similar to how Caitlin Clark was also a racial proxy war issue,
Even though
even
she
though
was a
she
woke
was,
white woman,
yes,
but
she might be considered what we call an awful. And Shiloh Hendricks, again, racial proxy war. Austin Metcalf, racial proxy war. So a lot of so again, Shore Sanders was in some capacity a proxy war, and that's why the fight is almost necessary.
So Cosmic Treason disagrees with your take on the Epstein. That doesn't affect us. It's just that it isn't just pedo sex parties. It is the corruption that he enabled. But
I'm not even convinced that how much of it is like the pedo sex parties. It's again, teenage women are not actually. It's not technically pedophilia by definition, and a lot of those women were there by their own desire, because I think it was like he would recruit a teenager and then she would recruit the other teenagers
yeah, it was basically a
the scam.
pyramid scheme. It was a pyramid scheme of underage loose women. So that much, even Netflix documented. Like Netflix produced a documentary on Jeffrey Epstein, and that's what their story was. With he created a ring, and they didn't really get into any of the more salacious things. It was just more about like massages that were gross and creepy. But they didn't get into what was on the island. They got into what he did in his house in West Palm Beach or whatever.
But again, I
So
mean, the fact is that the Epstein thing is being used as a cudgel against Trump to either detract from the support that detract from his support within the base, while also just again, the Democrats are using it, but they're not even talking about the fact that like a Republican Speaker of the House was a convicted pedophile. Like,
which one?
so, I don't remember what his name is,
Okay.
but yeah, that actually did happen. I think it's Hester or something, but
Like, I do think you're right. It was more reported than it should have been.
and why is that is the real question.
Okay. give you that
because I
one.
don't think it's a good reason that we had a lot of oxygen spent in
I don't
2025
have
on
a
Jeffrey
story that's
Epstein.
more unjustly overreported than that. Like even Shador Sanders, you're right. There's a racial proxy thing going on. The Browns the Browns are always a disaster, and
Some people like reporting on train wrecks, honestly.
yeah, I mean the fire you just want to watch. Even though he would have gotten his start if he played in Baltimore, maybe not over Tyler Huntley though. But I don't think the Ravens had Tyler Huntley at the beginning of the season.
I thought
But
they did, but
no, I think he was in Miami. But let's see. Biggest surprise. What do you have for biggest surprise of the year? I
this
have
one
two
had
nominations.
this one had to be the Charlie Kirk assassination.
I don't think the biggest story of the year is the biggest surprise. I think political
I
violence
I
is not as surprising as you
I
think.
think it is just because of the moment that it happened in, and it's just like seeing the video was very shocking in itself. So I think the experience itself on well, it was September 10th because it was going into 9/11, and it's just like everyone was talking about the Irina Zarutska murder, and then you see the video, Charlie got shot, and then you see the video, and it's like he got shot in the neck, and it's like wow, that just happened.
I understand your point, but I think liberal political violence is not as surprising as you're making out to be. I think that liberal domestic terrorism is going to be a problem for the foreseeable future. Next 5 to 10 years, I think we're going to see liberal political violence as an issue, and assassinations would be part of that. They've already taken a shot at Trump twice, if not 3 times. They've tried to kill Trump, so I'm not sure that Charlie Kirk getting killed is as surprising as you make it out to be. Um, Let me share my nominations. Carolina Panthers. They were terrible last year, and no one had any expectations for them, and they're about to backdoor their way into the playoffs. Um, Obviously, that hasn't happened yet, but they're in first place at the moment, and they can lose this week and still get into the playoffs. So that is a shock of the year. That is a shock. And then Fantastic Four was a surprisingly decent movie. I did not think it would be a good movie. I don't think Pedro Pascal was particularly good in that movie, but I do think a lot of the other parts of the movie were done really well for what it was. Like it was kind of surprisingly good. So that's why I have it as a nomination.
Yeah, I mean, it was a movie I thought would be like utterly crap, and it turned out okay. It was actually kind of decent. It surpassed expectations.
Yes, and that is to me what surprise means for this category. I think Carolina Panthers is a little more surprising. So I'm inclined to give them the award, but that should also be pending that they make the playoffs. Otherwise, they should lose the award, right? Because then they would have a losing record and not be in the playoffs, which is not a surprise. But all year they've been the plankton meme. I kind of didn't think I would make it this far, and that's kind of been them. So, yep, that's me. I'm gonna go with the Carolina Panthers. Biggest disappointment.
Well,
Also,
just to point out the comment section. I mean, I'm sure I'd love to have a conversation with Steve Dace about Michigan football and Sharon Moore and his scandal. Just as
I wouldn't because I don't think college football is nearly as
just because
interesting as other
it
people.
is so comical.
Uh, like college football is a bad product, and I'm tired of pretending that it's not. Even the bowl games were bad last week or whatever they were terrible products. And the playoffs take too long, so it's pointless. Like they should be over on New Year's Day. But anyway, that's a digression. Biggest disappointment, I kind of went with it's hard for me to be disappointed because I didn't even have like a movie I was looking forward to this year that just sucked. Once I saw it, like that didn't even happen this year. So I went with the Detroit Lions because they should have made the playoffs and didn't. So that's kind of
So
it.
this one I went with Pam Bondi because I mean, again, it's not even like I had high expectations for Pam Bondi, but at the same time, she was still disappointing in how bad she was. And again, Trump's worst hires had all been DEI hires: Christine Owen, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel. They're all DEI, and yes, white women are DEI. and Indians
Often.
especially. Harmeet Dillon. It's just like we can go on the list of like all of Trump's worst hires, all of them DEI. And Pam Bondi being the Department of Justice, which has done absolutely nothing of note this entire year. Like this, I mean, again, other aspects of the administration seem to be cooking. Like, I mean, defense, I think, or Department of War, which I love hearing that. That's been cooking. Trump's got a lot done in the military, but yeah, the Justice
I think
Department.
DHS is cooking. I think, but DOJ has been the source, I think, is the biggest
Yeah,
source of
it is
disappointment in
super
the Trump
easy to get these
administration is the
protesters
DOJ.
arrested. All you have to do is, oh, you're obstructing justice. Boom, that's a 5-year felony.
And they've done a little bit on Antifa rings.
Yeah, I mean, but you don't
That's
even need
true.
the ring.
Like,
You don't even need the ring. All you have to do is, oh, you're arrested, 5-year felony, or all you have to do is charge them with obstruction. That's all you have to do.
yeah, I think,
You don't need
yeah,
to.
that one
You
takes
don't
the
need to
cake.
have.
That's a much stronger case than the Detroit Lions, who peaked last year and should have made the Super Bowl, but Jared Goff's not a good quarterback.
And again, the
And
Minnesota
the
fraud thing.
lights
Like,
are
how
on.
have you done nothing on that? And yeah, she's saying we're doing things, but
And then Harmeet Dillon was on social media saying, I took a break from knitting to do this. And it's like, someone's like, you should stop knitting and do your job. And I actually think Harmeet Dillon should go back, should just stick to knitting and then quit her job. So that someone that's actually good can be there. But yeah, I think Pam Bondi and the DOJ, because the DOJ is the sole black hole in the Trump administration where nothing really good is happening, or not enough good. It's the expectations are not being met there. So I think you're right on that one. Grifter of the year. I think this one's obvious, but I'll let you go first.
I mean, for grifter, I mean, this has to go to Candace Owens, right? I mean,
Yes, yes. Candace Owens was
grifting ain't
obvious.
easy, but I mean, she's just got this sheer talent. Like, there's no shame, there's no boundaries, there's no limits to what she won't say and spout off. And obviously, she has like I won't say somewhat positive externality of like radicalizing white women, but at the same time, there's just no bridge or rock she won't unturn. There's just nothing she won't do. There's no grift she won't grift.
Yeah, I mean the Egyptian planes turned out to be incorrect information.
Surprisingly, right?
She is the most inefficient communicator I've ever listened to, because I listened to her after the Erica Kirk thing. I listened to her speech there. Her podcast there. I'm like, how do people listen to this? She is so inefficient. It is Ketanji Brown Jackson level spoken, and very little is actually said. When people say that podcasting is like the least efficient medium of information transfer, that is what they're talking about, is people like Candace Owens. Like, I get in, tell the story, get out. Like, on my regular videos, live streams were a little bit more free and loose, but man, Candace Owens, she drags it out. You know, she's got to have multiple sponsorships, and that maybe is the reason why
I
she
mean, she
drags
literally,
everything
and
out,
again,
because she has
it
to
goes back.
fill like an hour plus or whatever. So inefficient. She has nothing real to say, and it shows. She
And it
is.
goes back to conspiracy slop being its own genre, where yeah, you could actually say, is there a conspiracy behind Kirk with whether or not the Discord people are involved? But instead of focusing on something that actually might be I won't say true conspiracy, but almost an actual like elevation of the story, she basically makes about Israel and Mossad killing them. No, it probably wasn't those Jews that did it. It was probably the Bolshevik Jews that made people gay with pornography and Hollywood porn, or like Hollywood sex. Like it was probably that side of the
We have
kosher.
a homosexual shooter.
It was probably like
Like
left wing Judaizing that
how
made
much? Like, why do we want to refuse the narrative that we have?
like yeah, it was the
Who is turned
Bolsheviks.
in by his parents because Pam Bondi's not doing her job. Like, I'm not really a fan of the conspiracy stuff on the Charlie Kirk assassination. I'm just not. Like, prove a case. Like, come up with a coherent narrative, counter narrative, a counter
Oh, and
narrative to the
whether
official
the
narrative. Don't just ask questions about things that have a coherent counter narrative. Like 9/11. What's the coherent counter narrative? It's not jet steel doesn't
it's
melt.
not
It's not the jet
Project
steel.
Bluebeam. Project Bluebeam and holographs.
It's
It's
not
like,
jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams. It's that these people couldn't have pulled this off on their own. And also pointing out the fact that they were even detained at the airport. The hijackers were detained at the airport. Why were they detained at the airport? Were they armed or whatever?
why were
Because
they
I
let
don't
into
really
the
believe that you're taking over a plane with a box cutter either.
why were
So
they let into the country to begin with?
exactly. So there's those are like the 9/11 conspiracies that are worth peddling in, right? Which is what Tucker Carlson did in his documentary series, not jet fuel and steel beams. Like that's the retarded stuff, and that is all that Candace Owens focuses on. Small minutia and not big picture. What is the big picture? So, and I guess she's trying to go for a Lee Harvey Oswald thing, but even he maybe could have done it if he was not in the school book depository place and was on the grassy knoll. Then it's possible that he was the actual shooter. But anyway, uh, biggest bum. So Candace Owens, Grifter of the Year,
Winsome
very clear.
Sears.
Biggest bum.
You
Really?
absolutely tanked the Virginia election. You also tanked the down ballot too. You basically pulled a Mark Robinson, and the Republicans are running these DEI candidates that don't look like they're voters, and you've lost several elections in a row running these bum candidates. Herschel Walker, you had a guy in Kentucky that was black. You have Winsome Sears, Vivek Ramaswamy's down in Ohio.
That's not because he's a bum. That's because he's severely unlikable.
So I mean, you have a bunch. Oh yeah, but Winsome Sears is a complete bum. She is not very bright. She actually peddled the whole black people invented everything narrative, which
I
is
think that
not true.
included like elevators and
Yeah,
stuff.
elevators, and yeah, literally the guy that invented elevators is like Otis, and that's like a company that's still around today. Same thing with Carrier, which invented the HVAC. So it's like these companies that actually still exist.
So I had Winsome Sears, and I thought you would have had her for a different category.
Must say we both agreed that the black woman bummed the Virginia elections.
I do believe we agree on that. I also want to say Dave Chappelle. His comedy sucks now. I think it's very clear that his comedy sucks now, and I think
I don't
more
think it's
people are realizing that his comedy sucks now. Because it used to be like Sticks and Stones was like the last decent special that he threw, and then it's been like all garbage since.
yeah, but it's been all garbage since.
I don't know, but now people are talking about it. And it's like, yeah, he just bummed his way through another special,
And
another
again,
Netflix special.
he's released his last two specials at a wrong time. You got to release that stuff in the spring because that's when I guess the media news cycle, it's in season for going after comedy in like the spring. You don't
Another
release it in the
nomination
winter.
that I have is Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I have her elsewhere.
Do you have her at like worst politician? Okay. Then I think Winsome Sears definitely belongs in this category because
And again,
she
everyone knew
absolutely
she
tanked.
Everyone knew she would lose.
MTG
a
is
year
crashing
ago.
out. So she's crashing out, and she's basically being a traitor to the MAGA movement and all that by going on MSNBC or CNN and apologizing for her contributions to violent rhetoric and nonsense like that. So not a fan of MTG. She's totally blown it.
She'll be the next Candace Owens.
Oh no.
That's my prediction. She'll start a
So
podcast.
Winsome Sears bum of the year because she absolutely tanked that thing. I also want to say maybe Ben Shapiro should get bum of the year, but I think I have
he's
him
working
for
overtime. He is working overtime.
but it's
And
not
he's
going
not
anywhere.
even charging by the hour at this point. He can't even charge because Daily Wire is broke.
So I have him for a different category though. So player hater of the year. I think that there's only one person that deserves this award, but I'll let you go first because I totally got you here.
It will have to be James Lindsay, as far as I'm concerned, because
Okay. First name's the same, but last name no, James White. This is a guy who's a complete player hater who spent all his time player hating other Christians. He wants me spanked. And obviously, the guy's made his entire show about going after other Christians for minute disagreements on social media. Like the guy only does player hating. Like I think James Lindsay is more of a locale, which we don't have a category for, but
I guess when your entire show is about Twitter drama, and it's like, an hour and a half, I guess I could see why you're the player hater of the year.
Exactly. Like the amount of player hating that James White does. Like, does he do anything else? Best actor. I've struggled with this.
So this one was a very late consideration. I have Amy Acton, candidate, the Democratic candidate for governor of Ohio, running against Vivek Ramaswamy. You are basically using Vivek's own talking points against him disingenuously, and you are actually ahead in the polls.
Yeah, and you know she hates white people, but
I mean,
here's the thing. She might hate white people less than Vivek does, despite being a Democrat.
well, I mean, it's similar to like Keir Starmer hate outflanking Nigel Farage on immigration in Britain. And it just has to be said. It's just like you have these leftist politicians that are completely willing to just lie through their teeth on issues because the right wing politician or the conservative candidate is completely inept at their game and is subversive in their entire I guess purpose of being. It's just like, yeah, it's pretty easy for someone like Amy Acton to outflank someone like Vivek Ramaswamy and just lie through your teeth. And even though you're like the COVID advisor back in 2020, but it's just like, I mean, yeah, you're using Vivek's own rhetoric against him, and it's effective as of right now.
All right.
So I mean,
I
yeah,
will give that.
if she is actually able to can't capitalize and win that election because Vivek is that awful, it's just like
I mean,
she
because she
ran a
put out
heck
a
of a campaign.
devastating ad of people reading Vivek's own words.
Yes,
That was a
like
devastating ad.
she knows how to play the game. Give her credit.
Best actor, and she's pretending like she doesn't hate white people. So good on
Yeah,
her.
that's all she has to do.
I forget whether she's actually Jewish or not, but
I
I think
don't believe
Torba
she
tweeted that
is.
she was Jewish. Worst actor. I have Ted Cruz as the nominee for this because the guy's absolutely pretending, but he has no real conviction. Like again, you want to be a Christian Zionist, but you can't cite Genesis 12. Like the guy is a bad actor, and it's not even close. Everything he does is cringe. So
Okay, so
that's my nomination.
I went with Nancy Mace. She is a middle-aged, like 47-year-old woman pretending to be a rape victim, and you're finding excuses to tease America with your breast. Like she literally did the I'm going to show my naked body on like today, and she didn't even do that, which I only checked for a friend on C-SPAN, which is an official network television channel, for the record, not a hub of any sort. And yeah, she didn't even do that. So she's literally trying to strip tease America as a congresswoman. Like, I'm not buying it.
I think Ted Cruz is a worse actor. Like he's just bad. He's worse at doing what he does than she is at doing what she does. She's an attention whore. She's doing her job in a way. She knows her role and she's doing it. Ted Cruz is a horrendous actor. Like he's pretending to be MAGA. He's not. He became a neocon. Like I think Ukraine might have done that. Like he became a neocon over Ukraine. But
Yeah, I mean, he definitely sided with the military-industrial complex over that.
and again, 2015, he was not a neocon. So I'm giving that to Ted Cruz. Now we got a little bit of a celebrity thing. I don't have a celebrity of the year. I don't have an athlete of the year.
Athlete has to be Shohei Ohtani. Absolutely crushed it in the World Series this year.
Okay. There's not a diversity hire. Um, any musician of the year?
I know a lot of people in our circles, they like Sabaton, so I did have to give them that. They have a lot of good music, very much, power ballad metal, very history driven.
I'm familiar. I think I have one song of theirs, or I'm not super familiar, but I'm a little familiar. Entrepreneur of the year, I have Lucas Botkins.
I mean,
he's
I
starting
went with
some new companies.
I went with Torba just as a lot of his reach, and I think he's really honed his craft as far as a right wing influencer.
Yeah, especially with the past week where he's just building these databases. It might not be like severely what's the way, like, technically innovative, because like it's not like he's the first person to ever do it, but he is building like unique, hey, messaging platforms and mediums to put the data into your hands. So he's doing the hard work to do that so that people on our side can be informed. So I do appreciate that as well. I don't know if he's really starting any new companies, but he is a hero on the right, and we got to acknowledge that as well. Uh, Michael says Sydney Sweeney for Celebrity of the Year.
I mean, I could think of two reasons, but let me also add that she has
Jeans.
exemplified, yeah, she has exemplified that
uh,
beauty is right wing as a quality because beauty is not in the eye of the beholder, but it is actually objective and it aligns with truth.
okay, I'll
So
do.
and again, the cultural phenomenon of Sydney Sweeney is certainly an element of 2025, whether you like it or not, whether you think it's a little bit more, I don't say risque or salacious
And it's not about her
than
acting,
it's not
because
about her acting.
no one wants to see her movies.
Yeah, I mean, her being a lesbian female boxer is like not bringing the boys to the yard.
Okay. Best politician.
I had to go with Bukele of El Salvador. He has given Trump the playbook on how to make the necessary reforms that need to be made.
I think I have JD Vance. He has navigated MAGA. You had him as like the top figure on the right. I think he has solidified his campaign for 2028. I don't think there's going to be any question there, and he's kind of made that the case. He's kind of emerged as a more charismatic figure. Uh, And he's also emerged as like the Charlie Kirk on the right figure. He is the guy, everyone who can get along with Charlie Kirk can get along with JD Vance, even marriage aside. The people that hate JD Vance also hated Charlie Kirk, like James Lindsay. He was attacking Charlie Kirk until the day he died. Nick Fuentes also kind of attacked Charlie Kirk until the day he died. I get that, some of it was shadow boxing, but I'm not really sure that's entirely the case
It's
with Nick Fuentes.
it's
But
certainly strange that the neocons and the Groypers are very much aligned in their political pursuits of helping the left defeat the right. Interesting trend.
so I do think he is outspoken on the issues that are important. I think as vice president, he's doing a better job at that than anyone is at their respective office. So
And yeah, as far as being a VP goes, he's been very relevant, which isn't always a factor for vice presidents. I mean, Mike Pence wasn't really that relevant. Biden wasn't really that relevant until, but I mean, obviously they
Mike
tried to
Pence was
make,
relevant once 2020 happened, and man, did he do terrible.
yeah, I mean, then Kamala, they tried to make more of a thing. And let's be honest, the administration was pretty much running itself, which is also one of the flaws that Trump had to encounter is that you were basically going into a White House overseeing a government that was operating itself for 4 years. Because let's be honest, Biden wasn't calling the shots, and neither was Kamala.
Yes, I think JD Vance wins that one. Worst politician.
This is
Two
where I
aforementioned names. Ted Cruz and Winsome Sears need to return to the conversation here.
this is where I have Marjorie Taylor Greene. Not only are you just terrible in your messaging, you're just an idiot overall. Like if you actually cared about the issues, you would be serving the people of Rome, Georgia. You would actually be serving your constituents. You would actually serve out your term as well. So you're just going out of spite towards Trump with your crashing out. I don't think you're being genuine at all. I don't think you're again, I know a lot of people are trying to say she's scared for her life because people's bullets start flying and she doesn't know what she's doing. I don't give
That's
her
like
that
the
much
story
credit.
of females, women in combat, but
Yeah, I get that. I get that angle, but at the same time, I think she's going to end up being a podcast grifter. She's going to compete with Candace Owens and Megyn Kelly as far as the top female podcast on the right because she thinks like there's no way to fight within the system, but at the same time, like you're not even trying. You could do a lot of good work for the people of Georgia. You're choosing not to.
I mean, I think she alienated herself so early on in her tenure as a congresswoman by being unprofessional that it ultimately hurt her ability to get in key positions because she did not play the game well enough.
That is true. She did
Uh,
all of those things, but at the same time, you can turn over a lot of new leaves, especially with Mike Johnson, who is in a very precarious situation with a very thin majority. So you can at least, if you play your cards right, you could really and be an ally to Mike Johnson. Then you could actually
Mike Johnson,
like advance yourself a little
yeah, the
bit.
guy sucks, but he at least played the game. He played the game well. Uh, here's another Winsome. Here's the thing. She's only a member of the House of Representatives, one of 435. Winsome Sears blew an entire campaign for governor of Virginia, which at the gubernatorial level is a little bit more of a swing state than it is at the general election level. Republicans can outperform in Virginia, and she tanked the entire down ballot,
But
as
I don't
you
know if you
alluded to
can
earlier.
win the bum and the best worst politician award.
I think he can. And then Ted Cruz, obviously, is a sitting senator, does not represent Texas. I wish Texas had a senator that represented them. That would be nice, but they do not. So honestly, I think her being a complete bum also, like, again, you know, the worst punter is not nearly as bad as the worst quarterback,
Yeah,
right?
but again, this is like again, Winsome Sears is like taking, you know, a it's like taking a woman and putting them into like a man's like sports environment or anything like that. She's already unqualified for various reasons. And does that necessarily mean she's bad or like the worst politician out there? No, she's already incapable of doing the job, but they gave it to her anyway. That's kind of why I wouldn't put Winsome Sears on there.
I
But
think
yeah,
it's a
she
very
did
fair
bum the
argument.
campaign.
Yeah. Uh,
Like
All right,
she was,
MTG does deserve to be on the list because the way that she crashed out and just turned against MAGA and all these other things, it needs to be noted.
yeah, and that is her as a politician.
So yeah, I agree. That's a good nomination. I understand that she should get that instead of bum of the year because her crash out was intentional, not accidental. Activist of the year, Charlie Kirk.
This was posthumously Charlie Kirk.
Okay, so we're all in agreement that that should be Charlie Kirk. LARPer of the year. I have some spicy ones a little bit, but I'll let you go first.
This one is Brylan Hollyhan pretending to be a conservative influencer, having your entire silver spoon astroturf campaign like shoved down people's throats. It's like, dude, you suck. Your talking points suck. You don't even know what you're talking about on most of these issues. And you basically sound like I mean, honestly, you're almost like a catamite for Lindsey Graham. Like, you're completely an astroturf product because your daddy was a donor and he's a slumlord that we already kind of alluded to earlier in the stream.
Right. That's man. We were talking off camera or whatever about slum lords and how a lot of real estate bros aspire to be that. And it's like I can't vibe with that. Anyway, even though again that's the golden goose, that is the faucet, as Clay Davis would say from The Wire. But no, I cannot vibe with wanting to be a slumlord, HUD housing and stuff like that. My nominations were Chris K. True. I think he definitely LARPed and is kind of still LARPing. And then Josh Bice, for his burner accounts, I think maybe is a LARPer. That one's a little tougher for me because again he was always kind of cowardly in public or whatever, and then just kind of used behind the scene channels to do this. So I don't know. It might not be fitting, but those were my nominations. I think Brillin is actually a very top notch nomination for this category, and you're really saving me in this award show tonight, because he is definitely the LARPer of the year, trying to get in there and make it about
How do you
him
do,
after
fellow
Charlie Kirk
conservatives?
dies. Charlie Kirk dies, and he wants to assert himself as that guy,
It's like,
despite the
dude,
fact that
you're
he's put in
19.
none of the work, and the
You're
work he
19.
has.
Like,
Here's the other thing: the work he has put in was terrible in the state of Arizona, where local activists hated him for what he did with because he was involved in, like, the Republican National Committee, but like on a committee of theirs, like for the youth or whatever, and he did terrible on that. And activists hated him. So, yeah, LARPer for sure. Hack of the year. This one's tough. I have 2 nominations for the same reason.
Well, I'll let you go first then.
Actually, we have a question here. How did K Dub True not get Bum of the Year?
I mean,
Honestly, because I don't think he was ever that good.
I don't necessarily say he was that influential. He just obviously had some weird scandal that he says wasn't sexual, that other people kind of implied that it was. He did fulfill a stereotype about, interracial marriage, despite all his rhetoric against such disparaging remarks towards his marriage. But, and he's back to doing content as if
Yeah, he
nothing
is.
happened. And his channel has actually grown a bit.
Yeah.
And he's
So
not the only one that's done that. Voice of Reason did that too. And he's staging himself a return to full-time content.
not everyone has marketable skills outside of what they do on here. Would not let that happen to me though. Anyway, my hack of the year nominees are Mark Levin and Josh Hammer for the same reason. See if you can top that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably have to concede. I mean,
Which one? Which one should get that? Like, or first of all, who are you going to nominate so I can have this over you?
Honestly, I wasn't quite
distinguished
distinguished between that and then Hack and Grifter. So, because I kind of had Candace on both, so I would probably favor Josh Hammer just because he is a lot more shameless and a lot more
Okay, Mark
revealing the
Levin.
quiet part out loud.
Did you see the latest crash out of Mark Levin?
Which one?
He tried to say that Jack Posebiec was little known. The dude's got 3 million followers. He's not little known. He's been very well known since like 2017. And he tried to say that this little known guy is a major anti-Semite.
What, like 500,000 or maybe even over 1 million followers? He's a little known guy.
I mean, he did
he actually went after Megyn Kelly today, or I want to say this morning. He's just like, oh, Megyn Kelly defending blackface is despicable. It's just like, shut up, dude. You literally radicalized Nick Fuentes on race, and apparently blackface is a problem. It's like,
blackface was not a problem until Obama became president.
Yeah, literally.
Know your history of comedy. It was not considered a cancelable offense until Obama became president.
Yeah,
that is your history of comedy.
Jimmy Kimmel,
obviously Jimmy Kimmel, Sarah Silverman.
Always Sunny did it twice.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and then obviously who can forget Robert Downey Jr. and Tropic Thunder, which was made before Obama became president, even if it came out in 2009, or did it? I'm not sure 2008 or 2009, but either way,
right? I mean, both of them are basically, telling the whole world that, the certain narrative that
I think Mark Levin wins it over Josh Hammer
about the big event in the 40s is basically predicated on blaming all white people for it, even the ones that fought against the side that was doing said event.
And both of those people have done that. Both Josh Hammer and
both said that
anti-Semitism is in people's DNA.
Yes, they both done that.
But
again,
Mark
Levin actually is the narrative. That is the narrative about the H.
Mark Levin's crash outs are spectacular.
I mean, Mark Levin, I guess, is the bigger hack because Josh Hammer is just like a nobody to like most people outside of conservatism. But
and he brings down people like Steve Dace who want to defend that guy's character, even though, again, the guy is completely evil.
And Josh Hammer was always awful on Steve Dace's show because he would talk too much.
Ouch. I couldn't really remember his performance, but
I just remember that was his thing. Is he
was more of a neocon and stuff like that.
He was very long-winded.
Rookie of the year. So Mark Levin wins that.
This has to go with Jeremy Carl, not to be confused with the author of Unprotected Class. This is the kid that questioned Vivek Ramaswamy during a TPUSA event. CIK, Jeremy Carl, which I assume stands for Christ is King. But yeah, that to me should be the rookie of the year because he actually is pretty young.
So I have a different nomination.
He is a newcomer on the scene.
Also newcomer on the scene in right-wing political thought. I usually have gone with sports for the past rookie of the years, like the past 4 rookie of the years, I'm pretty sure I've gone with sports. But I could not. It was a bad year for the rookie class. What can I say? Uh, so I have a YouTuber, Right Wing Coalition. That is a channel that started this past year, and they've put out a lot of thoughtful content. Next year they're putting out a book, so they're a rising star. I think this is the next. This is possibly the next Orrin McIntyre in conservative ink. So that is high praise, and I think that's a better case in my opinion. If you haven't checked out Right Wing Coalition on YouTube, check it out. That is a good channel. It's new. I think all their videos are from 2025, which would qualify them as Rookie of the Year. So that's my opinion. I think that's a stronger case in my opinion as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, right now, as far as I know, the other Jeremy Carl is I won't say a Twitter pundit, but yeah, that's
Uh,
what he is. And that's nothing wrong with that.
Comeback of the year. Do you have anything? Last year was such a hard competition,
Well,
but
no, because it was
obviously it was
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
It was Donald Trump.
But there was more nominees. There was more nominees for
So
comebacks last year.
I have a
This
couple.
year, I don't know what.
So one, I put the S&P 500, which reached all-time highs this year after crashing quite hard over Trump's tariff mania. Which, if you bought the dip like Donald told us to, you would have made a lot of money, and I did. And that comeback was my comeback of the year. And
Yes,
then the other
you want to
option,
invest like Anthony, by the way.
yeah,
He's actually very good at it.
I'm,
But
you know, I don't just post coal on the internet. I do invest in coal, and coal did well. And silver, I mean silver. If you're
yeah, the
riding
Chinese
hot,
did that, I think. But yeah.
the other comeback could actually be Lauren Chen, because she actually did make a comeback on
I
the
don't think
Twitter scene, but I don't think it's a complete comeback just yet.
Yeah, I don't think that comeback is really completed. I put Aaron Rodgers. He went from playing for the Jets to playing for the Steelers, and even though he has zero receiving talent on the Steelers outside of, running 13 personnel packages, uh, the dude's still putting up numbers. He's still a more competent quarterback than most in the league. I would say he's top 10 in terms of quarterback competency, and if you gave him like some actual receiving talent, because DK Metcalf is not that good, very overrated and overpaid.
Yeah, but
The guy would be
what I'm hearing is he hasn't actually came back yet. He
I
hasn't
think he
really.
has come back because I think you've seen at 42 years old, he's still got it. He's like the greatest of. He is in the GOAT conversation at quarterback because, like, does anyone do better in the month of December? He is Mr. December. He is the GOAT at Hail Marys, and he's the GOAT at free plays. He owns like 3 categories of being better than any other quarterback in 3 things: Hail Marys, free plays, and being in December. I think he's just historically amazing in the month of December. Packers have gotten to the playoffs a lot because of that. And he's elevating the Steelers, who are a terrible football team. So there's that.
No, it still has to get to the stock market.
No, it doesn't. That's the most Jewish answer you could possibly give.
Yeah, but it's the one that makes the most sense given how bad it declined. It was a bloody.
Oh, come on.
week.
It's the stock market is always going to go up. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, but
in the long term, it's always going to go up.
But the tariff mania, but they didn't do quantitative easing. That's the other thing that really drives the stock market up. So with the interest rates where they're at, the fact that you had tariff mania, you had obviously the AI revolution, which, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't even matter because I'm invested on the chip side. So people are buying the chips regardless of whether the AI works or is profitable. So
yeah. I invested in companies that are involved in the data centers, but yes, chips are also good as well. I'm still giving it to Aaron Rodgers. He's the GOAT. Best book.
Yeah, this one I don't know.
I don't have a book. I have a worse book, but I don't have a best book.
My problem is I read dead people, so their books aren't exactly coming out new this year.
I think I read more enemy books than I did than I did Friendly Books. So yeah, Anthony, you're apparently winning Jew of the Year for your
I
stock
wish.
market answer. Um,
I mean,
anyway,
they say Stephen Miller has like 6 figures of Palantir stock. I don't have that yet.
yeah, we'll forego best book because we don't have a nomination for that. Camp of the Saints was re-released this year. Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
I
if you
wasn't
want
sure
to
it was
argue,
re-released. I don't know the lore of that. I know it's hard to get
if you
book.
want to argue the re-releases itself a book of the year, that's a
Oh,
case
come
to
on.
make.
Then you got to make a re-release of a re-release of a movie's the movie of the year. Like, can't do that. I'm sorry. Like, we got to have standards. Best movie.
Yeah, that one.
This was a terrible year for movies. Absolutely abysmal. Every movie that they said was good was either not good or just kind of disappointing. Like, Sinners was a bad movie.
Yeah,
That was woke garbage.
and I've seen some Steve
And
Dace
Steve
references in the
Dace loved that
comments.
movie.
It was a Black Power fantasy.
Yes.
Like if it has Michael B. Jordan in it, it's a good sign that it's probably a Black Power fantasy.
Wakanda Forever, right? Um, was he the black guy in that movie? Oh, he
Yes. Oh
was.
no,
He
he was the
was. He was
villain. He was
He was
yes.
Killmonger. Yeah. Duh. I was just making the joke, but no, he was in that movie. So
And
movies
his
as far
character
as
was BLM too. Like,
Warfare, people glazed that movie, but I found that movie to be disappointing. It just was not. It was not like a story about a dude losing his leg in Iraq. It just is not a cinematic experience. Even if the movie was well done, the story that it was telling was not movie worthy, in my opinion. It did not make the U.S. Army look good because that movie was about like taking a few casualties and trying to get out as opposed to overcoming an obstacle. It's not an inspiring story. I get that it's hyper realistic, but it's not a satisfying story. So I was actually disappointed with that. It's not like Black Hawk Down, where the soldiers outmatched the Somalis and
all
had to
of
overcome
Ilhan
that and stuff
Omar's
like that.
cousins and
So it wasn't like that. Instead, it was they got outclassed and I don't know. I don't like movies that showcase like we're gonna do hyper realism, but the U.S. military gets outclassed by a bunch of Iraqis who are
yeah, I
not a
mean
martial people
there were
at all.
certain cinematic elements they probably should have taken to at least set up the plot a little bit more, especially in the beginning. Again, it wasn't a great movie, and that I don't think it's worthy to be called that. Like it
Sinners was
wasn't
just
horrible, but
Sinners was just Louisiana vampires, right? No, it was just it was woke nonsense. It was woke
it
garbage.
was black people, black music powers, black people magic. I don't know. It
Yeah, it was
was
like the music of black people is so magical that it brings the dead back to life and stuff like that. It was so nonsensical, and that these white vampires wanted to, convert this musician so that they could have access to his music and see their dead relatives. It's just a nonsensical film, terrible. Uh, so honestly, my favorite movie from the year was The Naked Gun with Liam Neeson. That was my favorite movie of the year. It was absolutely hilarious, start to finish. And Liam Neeson was an excellent cast job. I thought it was better than the original Naked Gun movie from the 80s. Even though I do think Leslie Nelson is talented and all. Right. That's the guy from the original, right?
no.
But I think that the craft of the slapstick was perfected in um, this rendition of The Naked Gun. I thought the craft was perfected by Liam Neeson, and he just absolutely owned it. Uh, Great movie. Had an OJ Simpson joke that was pretty funny as well, and it's just funny from start to end. And that was my favorite movie of the year. Obviously, a lot of people could like. I did not see F1, but I could see that being the movie of the year. Also, I just haven't seen it, so it's hard for me to give an award sight unseen. But I don't think there's any like there were not a whole lot of good movies this year.
No,
Just a
I
fact.
don't. I don't think I went to a movie. I don't think I saw a movie live at all in theaters at all this year. And technically, the last movie I saw would have been Nosferatu, which would have been technically 2024.
So Obviously, Joker, Godzilla minus one. Again, those came out a few years ago, and yeah, YouTube is very good for movie recommendations. But even this year, there weren't any good movies for them to recommend, or they thought Sinners was a good movie, even though it was not. It was garbage. That was woke garbage. It was not a good year for movies, and I just couldn't
Not a
get
good
down with
year
it.
for culture or entertainment at all.
Uh, So I'll make a note of that. So we talked about F1, which probably is the best movie of the year, but I
I
haven't
mean,
seen it. And
I mean,
then
racing movies seem to be on the up and up, which
Gran
thanks
Turismo
to
was pretty good. And
well,
then
no, I think you have to go back to Ford versus Ferrari being
oh
kind of
yeah,
like
yeah.
the one that really launched like car movies being more of a thing. Because I mean, again, that's literally a story about like white American excellence.
Another movie I thought was very good this year was Flight Risk. That was Mel Gibson's latest movie. That was all, with starring Mark Wahlberg. That was also a pretty good movie that came out this year. Uh, but it wasn't my favorite movie that came out this year. It was probably my second favorite movie that came out this year. And I've not seen the latest SpongeBob movie yet. So still holding out hope that that could be it, but it's probably not the best movie of the year. Because we love SpongeBob around here. But yeah. Best TV show.
I will give this to Clarkson Farm season 4, which again you might think, why is a documentary the best TV show of the year? Yeah, I know it was a very bad year, but at the same time, this show has had a lot of political impact in the UK, or the UK as it is now called. But yeah, Jeremy Clarkson basically highlighting the struggle of British farmers has a lot of political impact over there, and it's certainly made a lot of people have a greater appreciation for agriculture. It also shown how industrialized the system is, and how much the farmers themselves actually struggle, and that's without getting into the tax burdens of inheritance. So I mean, yeah, it's a well-made show. The best things Netflix have, or not Netflix, the best shows Amazon has actually ever created were literally about farming, and it cost a fraction of the price of like the Rings of Power, the
Right.
Citadel, and all these other crap shows that Netflix put or Amazon puts out. And it's like, no, their best shows were literally acquiring the Grand Tour guys.
I actually have a similar vein, but it's not really political. But no political impact as far as I can tell. But it is like a normie white show, and that is Tires on Netflix. Tires came out their second season. It's Shane Gillis's show on Netflix. I thought season one was good. Season two also I thought was really good. The first scene is just hilarious. It is the source of the "you sound like a potential homosexual" meme. So the show has breached popular culture, and that scene is hilarious. By the
And
way,
Shane Gillis is like at his peak right now.
he is at his peak, and Tires, I think, is a very good show. It's a good show. Netflix has been looking for their Office. They've been looking for a sitcom type show for several years now. They've been looking to make their version of The Office,
And yeah,
their
like
version of all these other shows, and this is it. They finally achieved it after how many attempts? This is a top five show that Netflix has ever produced. It might be number two to Last Chance U. Like his Last Chance U is the greatest show that Netflix has ever produced, hands down. And then I think Tires is up there, and it came out with a good, uh, politically incorrect comedy. Like not everything that Netflix puts out is woke, but a lot of the stuff they do is super woke. But Tires was like not woke,
and again,
politically incorrect, and then
and let me just say with Tires, like, yeah, if I were to like write a sitcom, yeah, it would probably be something along that lines, because I worked in the auto industry, so it's like, okay, it's a very masculine heavy
it
environment.
it is.
A lot of the jokes on Tires actually do resonate with people that have
And
worked
the
in the
other thing
auto
that
industry.
resonates is that the business side of the show resonates with me in my daily life. So I think the show is very well written, even for its more serious plot moments. But it's also very funny. It's also extremely funny. So it is a good show. It is Netflix accomplishing what they've set out to accomplish for their entire streaming existence, because they have botched this so many times with Arrested Development. They did a horrendous job with season four and season 5 of Arrested Development. BoJack Horseman was just very flawed. They have multiple bad seasons of that show, and I'm not, and that show just inserted woke nonsense and shoved it down your throat. That's, shows like that are where that meme came from. And then they're animated comedies, there are other animated shows that haven't worked. They they did a Blockbuster show, they did a Jamie Foxx show, and all these
Yeah, I
other
mean
high concept, low
they've thrown a lot
concepts.
of crap at
Space
the wall.
Force was terrible, or at least it was just bad, not good enough to merit a second season, and it didn't get a third season. That's for sure. So Netflix has done so bad at they've tried so many times to get a comedy on board, and now they finally got one with Tires. So I think that is an achievement for Netflix,
But at the
especially
same time,
when
I don't think it has the impact of Clarkson Farm.
Clarkson Farm. I can't believe.
Because again,
I'll grant you
that one has
because
a
of the
lot
impact.
of impact. Yeah, the cultural and political impact of Clarkson Farm.
But we're giving an honorable mention to Tires because that, we need
for the
not
meme
woke,
culture, for
non-woke
actual
comedy
But I mean,
is making a
you
comeback.
can't have comedy over something that's serious. It's poor form to have that.
Oh my, it's poor form, but
Like comedies don't win Oscars.
They should sometimes though. Best video game. I don't have anything for this.
Yeah, I got nothing.
The game I've played probably the most this year was Oblivion. I was like finally beating that game because I didn't play that when it came out, so I finally like played it now and beat it. So yeah, I don't have a video game of the year. Worst movie of the year. This is a discussion. I think it comes down to two movies. War of the Worlds starring Ice Cube. It was made during COVID-19 using Zoom and FaceTimes and stuff like that. It is a horrendous movie. It is a horrendous take on War of the Worlds. And yeah, it's just a horrendous movie that should have never been made. The entire movie is an abortion. And then Snow White, which is a movie that also should not have been made, but for different reasons. Rachel Zegler just killed the film with her opening her mouth. They didn't have the dwarves, and they did have the dwarves, and then they didn't have the dwarves again. Just a horrendous movie. But I think Snow White could have been a little bit, like, it had some potential. Like, it wasn't going to be a good movie, but it could have been a good girls movie. But it kind of falls flat on that end because of the music and stuff. It just doesn't work as well. Those are my thoughts. War of the Worlds had no potential, but Snow White could have been a good girls movie.
Yeah, but it was also a much lower budget than Brown Snow, as I like to call it.
Is there any other movie that comes to mind? Like, does Elio get on the list? Or
I think Elio certainly warrants a conversation, given that the messaging in the movie is bad. It is Pixar's Bean Mouth style animation that has just grown very tiresome with the audience. It's not impressive. It's not aspirational. It is just a creatively bankrupt studio that used to create very charming movies back when Disney did not own them. So, I mean, I think Elio also probably much higher budget because of the animation.
Yeah, Elio was basically Shark Tale, except without the humor, without, I don't know, the voice acting talent. It's a dumbed down version of Shark Tale, which was already a kids movie that, again, Shark Tale was arguably like the fourth best animated film that came out its year. It came out in like 2004, which was like the greatest year of animated movies in the history of mankind. But yeah, Elio was it was dumb. I felt nothing in that movie. It was a little too predictable.
The messaging of disobeying your parents and you get rewarded is not very good.
Yeah,
which seems to be a lot of like Disney content these days.
Yeah, they're leaning into coming of age, and it's because the writers there just know nothing else. They're perpetual children.
Yeah.
so they don't have maturity or real life experiences.
I mean, yes, there was a Superman movie. There also was a Jurassic Park or Jurassic
Does
World
the
movie.
Jurassic World? I have not seen that movie.
But I mean, that
So
was a bad movie with that very low expectations. Like, does that
okay,
actually count?
Superman had high expectations, but it was a horrendous movie. Again, Steve Dace is terrible, dude, terrible movie takes. He thought Sinners was a good movie, and he thought Superman was a good movie. Both were garbage. Sinners was woke
And it's
garbage.
very
Superman
much
was
because
just
of
the
James.
worst of James Gunn.
Yeah, I mean, and James Gunn, he's a gimmicky director, and it came through. He needs someone to be like, no, get these stupid gimmicks out of the movie. Like, do what you did good, which was like toned down, like adult humor. Like he did the Scooby Doo movies, like back in the
Yeah,
day.
he
That
did do
was
the Scooby Doo
he's done
movies,
some good stuff. It's just when it's like controlled.
and he has a talented comedic talent. Like Chris Pratt is talented. I want to address this comment. Super chat for 10 Canadian dollars just got here. Have we given Angel Studios an award for shamelessly shilling both sides of the political?
I
I
mean, to
don't
me,
know this
their
reference as
pop
well.
culture hasn't actually had any impact this year. Like,
Didn't they have that feminist movie, like the girl boss nun movie or whatever that just bombed? Didn't that
I
come
think
out
that
this movie?
Cabrini, I think was last year.
Okay, that movie was like, I think they just distributed that movie, but it
Yeah, I
was
mean, I think
like
they're overpaying to distribute other people's movies
that
that
aren't
aren't
pro.
going to go
There's a
anywhere.
ceiling for the average Christian film is around
It's yeah,
$20 million.
$20 million.
Is about the most you can expect out of a box office performance. And then you got something like David, which you could maybe expect to get $100 million out of, especially if you do the pay it forward. I don't want to say it's a scam because it's completely legal, but you're getting people to buy movie tickets for movies that they're not actually going to see. So that's the pay it forward thing that they mastered with Sound of Freedom, but that's not replicable. And they found that out the hard way. They are coming out with a Washington movie, a young Washington movie that might be exciting next year. I noted when I did my don't buy Angel Studios stock, like I said that their stock was a scam. They were doing
It's
like
like an
a op.
unlisted, like,
Yeah, I I talked about the regulation and I talked about it was a scam because they're basically selling you high off of the success of Sound of Freedom when every other movie that they've come out with has not matched that success. And they only had two projects that in the near future, in the announced future, that could match that success. David, which just came out, and I did not think looked good because you're putting Marvel humor in a biblical epic, and that is so jarringly I can't do it. I cannot even. I will white girl ugh out of that because no, do not put Marvel humor in a biblical epic. That is an insult to the audience. And then the Young Washington movie, which could be good.
it
We do not
could.
have a whole lot of good Revolutionary War
It
movies.
could. I just don't trust the people doing it.
It's like George Washington might be the greatest general who continually lost battles, you know, because he kept the bad army together against the number one army in the world, give or take. Uh, you could argue that Prussia could have had a better army, but best army in the world. He had his units, which were crappy units, and he did not lose decisively. So, best general in history that's not really known for winning, uh, who's not really known for winning a decisive battle or anything like that. But young Washington, I think that's a lot of potential there. But I don't know the reference of them shamelessly pandering to both sides, other than things like maybe Cabrini.
I mean, they've
Uh,
done a lot of girl bossing, so I can definitely seen that. They've obviously done their fair share of Zio shilling on Holocaust porn, so
yeah.
they're not going to
Uh,
win an Oscar. So I don't know why they're doing it.
uh, so worst movie of the year. Do we have a consensus?
Um, I'll let you. I'll cede it to you on what
Honestly,
your
I think
thoughts are.
War of the Worlds is a worse movie than
I mean,
Snow
it's certainly
White.
the yeah.
I was not nearly as offended at Snow White because I think there was something there that
Well,
could
yeah,
have
the
been a
original
good
story.
girl movie, not a guy movie, not a movie I would but maybe a movie that some other people could like Frozen, right? Frozen's not a good movie, but it has good music. But so there was potential to have something like that, but they just didn't. And then uh Lilo and Stitch was actually more offensive to me than Snow White was. The Lilo and Stitch remake, that was more offensive.
Well, again, that's just another movie example of like a movie that I want to say they originally made it for Disney Plus, but then they're like, okay, we got to put this in theaters, and it was reasonably successful at that. And again, it's one of those things where like if you're going to take a children's concept and adapt it to a live action movie or TV show, you do have to mature the story. So where they succeeded was where they matured the story, where they failed was where they did not.
That's also the same thing with the Avatar Last Airbender live
Yes.
action, which again, unpopular opinion, that actually exceeded my expectations. Just not enough to be the
Yeah,
surprise
it
of the year.
exceeded low
It
expectations.
exceeded low expectations, but again, at the end of the day, uh, it had it had a lot of the flaws of the original animated show. So with like fast traveling and stuff like that. So I'm gonna give War of the Worlds. I just think that was a more offensively bad movie. Uh, Honestly, I think something like Wicked 2 would probably be the worst movie. I might hate that the most, but I can't rate movies that I haven't
I'm not
seen,
gay enough to watch
and
a
I'm
musical.
not gay enough to hate watch Wicked 2 or Wicked 1. I'm not gay enough to do that.
I'm not masochist enough to watch Cats either.
Bishop with another super chat says they have a thank you Dr. Fauci documentary, and the Wing Feathers saga has race nonsense and stuff like that, and little
Yeah,
girl
they do a
bossing.
lot of the girl bossing
Yeah.
because they did the whole the girls like the Afghan girls doing robots and stuff. It's just like come
Oh
on,
yeah, they did have that
we
movie.
don't
It's
need a bunch of
like
DEI STEM people. We don't need a movie that
Afghanis are like the
subversively.
Afghanis are like the least successful immigrant group. Like they are
Yeah,
down there with Somalis.
like we don't need like a movie that promotes like immigrants coming in or H-1B talent or the notion that oh we need these foreign talent. No, we don't need them.
Worst TV show. I nominated Last of Us season 2, just for the line of "I'm going to be a dad," spoken by Bella Ramsey's lesbian teenage character. It is just absolutely retarded, uh, and the delivery was bad. The whole show was bad, and I'm tired of a lot of the YouTube crowd pretended like it was good in season 1, and
And
then
they
when they
literally had
described,
Ron Swanson do like a
yeah,
make out plot like with another man. For those that don't understand, they made him gay.
it was woke nonsense from the start.
It's kind of like the boys had that. Well, maybe not that exact same plot. They did a gay plot in their first season, but people overlooked it. I would go with Richard season 4, a show that had very low expectations going in with the absence of Henry Cavill, and they really found a way to let's be honest, the plot with the rats and again, not even taking the best source material and like improving upon it, like just being worse than the actual source material that wasn't very great.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, there's a lot of bad TV shows that came out this year.
and again,
Uh,
I do like to make it about how much was spent on these failed projects, and Witcher season 4 was a high budget churn.
so was Last of Us season 2 though, and you know, do we also want to nominate season 5 of Stranger Things? I don't know if you have seen
I
it
would,
or anything like
I
that.
mean, we can, but at the same
Also,
time,
can
for rate.
I nominate the paper NBC's soft reboot of The Office?
Yeah, but no one had expectations for that, and they probably
People had
spent a fraction
expectations
of the
for that.
money. They probably spent a fraction of the money. The money actually does matter when you have the most expensive TV
Like,
show
imagine
ever
if
being
woke
made.
people made The Office.
Yeah.
If people were actively woke when making The Office, that is what the paper is, and it is unfunny as it gets. Like, your main character is like a super beta male, and then your female lead is a girl boss that was in the military, and then your other female lead is a single mother who talks too much, is painfully unfunny. The paper is terrible. I don't think I'll watch a season 2 of that. I watched the first season. It was I don't think I might have laughed maybe twice in like little chuckles because maybe the black guy in the show had some comedic delivery,
Yeah,
but
but
like no
it's
one
a
else
failed
did.
season one of a sitcom. Like that doesn't warrant the conversation like some of
It
these
does when
other.
they attached it to The Office.
No, no, because it would have to be like Scrubs, the Scrubs remake that's going to come out. That's not going to do well.
Oh, that's gonna do so bad. Um,
or
I'm
like the Sopranos movie that was just a complete turd.
okay. I'll grant Witcher season 4 because that's just an abortion from the start
Yes,
because
from
they had
start
no
to
Henry
finish.
Cavill. Even though Last of Us got rid of Pedro Pascal because they killed his character off and had no star power for the rest of it. Sort of like when you kill off Black Panther, you have no stars in your movie, Disney, and your only recognizable star is Elaine from Seinfeld. But anyway, worst book. I'm gonna give it to Amanda Taylor's "How to End Christian Nationalism."
Yeah, I'll go again. I read Dead People, and they're pretty good. A
Uh,
Dead Person has never disappointed me.
so I think that's the worst book of the year. Worst video game. I have Assassin's Creed Shadows,
Yeah, I mean they did lose their butts on that,
and
and it was a
I will
massive failure.
celebrate when Ubisoft goes bankrupt. I will
I mean,
celebrate.
literally, it was a game about stopping Asian hate, and by
Yeah,
having a black guy go around killing samurais.
and being gay.
I mean, it's realistic if you live in Oakland, but
Meme of the year.
I mean, it could be the "you sound like a potential homosexual," so the meme culture of of Tyre season 2 would probably be amongst my candidates.
So the two memes that I made that had the most impact were the which way reformed man meme. That's the one that James White wanted to spank me over. And then I made a meme regarding Vivek Ramaswamy, stemming from a viral video of this Sri Lankan dude whipping his pee out to proposition a white lady. The video doesn't show anything, but that image of that, Vivek Ramaswamy to the voters of Ohio, that meme could sink his campaign because it's just a summary of that. Oh,
Oh,
the JD
JD
Vane.
Vance meme. Okay, yeah, because JD Vance becoming memed is a sign of his magnanimous nature arising. I mean, similar to how they portrayed Trump and did all these things that just made him larger than life. So that does matter.
It's kind of funny is like along the lines of like bad TV shows, like South Park should be in the conversation as well as for
No, but
being biggest bum, but they've been that way.
they've
They've been bad
been
for a decade. Anyway, but yeah, nothing that they did really made a meme. But one thing that they did do that was funny this year, because it's not like they have zero talent left, but when they made fun of Chrissy Nome and just would have her show up and shoot a dog or whatever, like that's actually traditional South Park humor that's funny.
yeah, but
Uh,
again, comedy
But
just
they,
does come in threes. So
yeah, but they could never figure out Donald Trump, and that was the downfall of South Park. But man, so yeah, so they had like no memes off of that, and then so yeah, potential homosexual is definitely one of my favorite memes that come out of this year. Uh, I'll give it to that because I really like that meme. That was definitely on my mind. I just like to highlight like the best memes that I made this year because make it a little bit about me. NPC of the year.
so this one is a tie. It goes to Toby Sumter and Gabe Wrench, the Moscow, let's just say, riders for Doug Wilson.
So I believe Joel Berry was the winner of this last year, so I've renominated him to defend his title.
No, I mean, since he's not necessarily an NPC, he's out. He's this year he's elevated himself more to like main antagonist.
No, here's the thing though. He can't distance himself from James Lindsay. He just has the talking points, but he can't distance himself from James Lindsay. So basically, he was exposed as being an NPC. He's a non-player character.
Yeah, he has no arguments. He has no positive vision. His vision, again, but again,
But
it's the
why does he not
same.
have these things? Because he's an NPC.
But we can make the same exact comments about Neil Shenvi. Neil Shenvi doesn't have a positive vision. He doesn't actually have an argument. He just refers back to platitudes. Because at the end of the day, they can't combat like the arguments of the right wing. They can't combat nationalism. You can't say, well, black people can be a group and act in their own self interest, but white people can't because they're not
So
ethnicity or whatever.
let me knock off Gabe Wrench. Gabe Wrench is a layman. He's a loyalist to the Moscow mood.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why he's an NPC.
But he's
He's
the type of guy you want in your camp. Like, he's a knight in the Moscow castle. I don't think he's an NPC. He's a loyal, dutiful soldier. He is similar to Phil Johnson in MacArthur World. Toby Sumter, I think you got a stronger case for. I think he's much more NPC than Gabe Wrench. So that's my thought
I mean, I just
process
think
on that.
they're very interchangeable.
I disagree. I think Toby Sumter's way worse. He's way more NPC.
I mean, I did write his name
He is
first.
like this. He's like a successor to Doug Wilson in a way, but without any of the talent. So it is embarrassing, like how bad this guy is. But he wants to insert himself and use Doug Wilson's coattails, but he just doesn't have the talent. I don't think he's an NPC. I just think he's, yeah. And what Stormy is saying is exactly right. Gabe is, complete ride or die. Everyone needs a friend like Gabe. He's a knight for a bad cause. And Toby's like the incompetent prince of an empire. Like, I don't think he's an NPC per se. Like, I think there's a different phenomenon that describes Toby Sumter.
So they're saying Joel Berry because he's an unfunny hack that has no arguments. He's just platitudes. He's just
program talking points.
Yes,
that do not hold up under scrutiny, so and he has no answers.
Our biggest villain is an NPC.
Yes. Many such cases.
Yeah, many such cases.
So I think Joel Berry takes the cake there. You could make an argument for Neil Shenby as well, but you kind of didn't. But
well, I did, because it's the same argument that you would make against Joel Berry. That when he got absolutely shellacked by Dave Green, and again, Joel Berry, I think, did too.
But also by Tim Pool, which is even more embarrassing. Like, he can't defend his positions because he's an NPC. His arguments.
Well, you're falling back on empty platitudes, and you just got to believe. You just got to believe in the Constitution.
Like, that is peak NPC behavior. He's the NPC in the video game that has certain lines that he brings up, and it's not much deeper than that. Mangina of the year for the guy who's so effeminate. You had an answer for this one.
I said Will Stansel because there was like a giant meme going around, because his whole thing is he's a lolcow, but he's the guy that always takes the bait. And it's like, you always take the bait, you always feed the troll. And he did get, let's just say, sexually assaulted by an AI program on Grok.
I don't know this lore, but
I just remember, and then people made like an AI TV show of him. And that's where the whole meme culture of it do be like that, Mr. Stansel, came from. So I think that, to me, earns him Mangina of the year, because you got molested by an AI.
I have no idea about this internet rabbit hole.
I mean,
I know I've seen the meme, but I have no idea the origin story of it. I'll give that to him because I didn't have a nomination for this one. Fake and Gay Award. Who is the fakest and the gayest from this year? Here's my nomination: Michael Tate of Newsboys.
I mean, that's better than anything I could have came up with.
Christian music was fake and gay? What?
Yeah, I know. Biggest surprise ever, right?
Biggest surprise ever. So Michael Tate, Newsboys, fake and gay.
I mean, let's just be honest. A lot of what he was doing was like, if you do certain things, then I'll help you get into the music industry. And it's just like, I can't imagine wanting to be in the Christian contemporary music industry that badly.
Yeah. But yeah, he was fake and actually gay. Like, usually we just say it. Usually we just say fake and gay, but he was actually fake in his persona and actually gay. Yes, the Michael Tate story was this year. And Christian Post had that as a top 10 news story of the year. So, like, I did my top 10. That's not a top 10 news story. It's just not.
I mean, maybe from a web traffic standpoint, it might be, but as far as a news standpoint, it's not.
Right. And sometimes I have accounted for web traffic, but it doesn't, it's not the whole story. It doesn't crack my top 10. Chad of the year. So opposite of Mangina, the Chad of the year. I have Wesley Todd. The guy's a Chad.
I went with JD Vance.
I don't think he's a Chad.
Which I believe I also did last year. I had JD Vance. But I do think, again, him asserting himself at the top of the pole position going into 2028, to me, is very Chad behavior.
But the meme undermines his Chad behavior. Chad status a little
Well,
bit.
not if you own it.
Not if you own it, that's true. But I don't think he got the Chad quite. I think Wesley Todd has been the ultimate Chad this year. He was definitely a base guest on the program, big into biology, super smart, met him in real life. Great guy, definite Chad, uh, in my opinion. New category. Girl boss of the year. Who is our biggest girl boss of the year? Who girl boss too close to the sun? Did anyone do that? So I have three nominees for this one. Candace Owens. Again, she's a famous. Uh, she's a famous female podcaster that doesn't take her husband's last name. So obviously, girl boss material. She's like the number one or number two podcaster on the right currently. So yeah,
But she's more of a grifter than a girl boss.
but she is a girl boss though.
That is
She is
true.
fundamentally a girl boss. Lila Rose. She is not only a girl boss, but she has continuously embarrassed her husband in public the way she speaks about him.
That's why she would be my candidate.
Allie Stuckey. She's a girl boss. We got to admit that. Here's the thing. Doing what I do for Evangelical Dark Web consumes more time than maybe you would think. She is doing a lot more in terms of how much content she's putting out. So imagine the work that I do and like triple it probably. Like I do it after hours. Like I can do this after 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock. I can spend time on Evangelical Dark Web. And then, I post in the middle of the day, right? Ali Stuckey's working a lot more than I am on content creation. And that definitely takes away from the family and stuff like that. Like who's watching the kids type thing. So she's a girl boss. She is going into the female pastor space, but she's not openly honest enough to admit that. But Lila Rose obviously should get mentioned. Maybe next year's Allie Beth Stuckey's year for that though. But Lila Rose definitely deserves to be in the conversation. And going back to Candace Owens, she became one of the largest podcasters in the world off the back and dead body of Charlie Kirk. That is some top notch girl bossing there.
And again, live action with Lila Rose is functionally a grift. I hate the notion of running a media company out of a 501c3. It's just dishonest and it's just an abuse of the tax system. I do like the nominee as Pete Hegseth for Chat of the Year. Just throwing that out there. I see that in the chat. But yeah, I mean, yeah, live action being just a media company because all they do is spend money on advertisement, which is to retain donations from so that they can spend more on advertisements to keep getting donations and maybe do media on the side. That's pretty much what live action does. They don't actually do anything on the issue of abortion.
I think Lila Rose is. We have consensus on Lila Rose. We should
But
do it of the year.
We got a nominee for Chad being Pete Hegseth.
We want to reopen that.
I think there's a strong case because Pete Hegseth has actually overperformed expectations as far as being Secretary of War.
Secretary of War. He's been owning the imagery of that. This is a floor nomination. Actually, let's do it. Let's do Pete. I'll make Wesley Todd a honorable mention. Yeah.
And again, he actually has done a lot to purge. He actually has done a lot to purge the military as well. A lot of that stuff's subtle. He's gotten men back into the military, which again, if you're actually interested in making making a career, but like, doing things that are advantageous to your career, the military is the place to be right now. If you're in that space, or if you're in that phase of life, like this is probably as good a time as any to get involved in the military.
Yeah, or border patrol or whatever. Since there's a lot of job openings, but
that might be harder.
It's definitely harder to get into immigration custom enforcement right now than it is the military. That's for sure. Loser of the year.
I went with TPUSA because you lost the captain of your ship, and the leadership right now sucks. Erica Kirk is a downgrade. America Fest was a complete dumpster fire. And you basically allowed it to be Civil War battlefield.
I gotta push back on the dumpster fire part because it is the premier conference of the right. It did
So you're
claim
saying the
that this
entire
year.
movement is a dumpster fire.
Well, a little bit, but at the same time, like that conference was not a dumpster fire. It was a battleground, but it was a battleground before Charlie Kirk died because this was the event that they wanted to pressure Charlie Kirk, and he was losing donations over having Tucker Carlson speak at this event.
Yeah, I think the fact that Erica
It
Kirk
was
made that,
always a battleground.
I think, I think Erica Kirk made it a dumpster fire this year and made it all about the issues internal within, all about the internal fighting. She did that out of the gate, letting Ben Shapiro do his kvetching for 20 minutes.
Yes, Ben Shapiro was not an announced speaker when Charlie Kirk was alive. Still, I think I do believe he was added after the fact. So that's worth pointing out.
And again, you had that occupy the entire America Fest, which I don't think that's congruent with what Charlie Kirk wanted. And
So
again, you're a
my
ship without
loser,
a captain. That's why you're the loser. You lost your
not
captain.
here's the thing. They're still a prestige organization. I don't think loser is a fair characterization of them, especially you know for 9 months of the year they were not a loser organization. My nominee is Ben Shapiro himself. The guy has picked fights. He has lost those fights. He has lost subscriptions on YouTube. Uh, Daily Wire is a financial dumpster fire that's hopefully going to go bankrupt. Like they're selling lifetime subscriptions. Is Netflix doing that? Is any successful subscription company selling lifetime subscriptions? The answer is no. So why is the Daily Wire doing it? Because the lifetime value of a customer is lower on average, and probably not just average, but standard deviations above average, lower than $1,500. So the lifetime value of a customer is so low for the Daily Wire that they're selling lifetime subscriptions to get people to cash in now because they are a financial dumpster fire. The Pendragon series is too expensive,
Well, it doesn't
and
matter how good that is. They will have basically bankrupted themselves on that show. And again, they still have to advertise the show.
they still have to,
You
yeah.
can't just make it. You have to advertise it too. Which
But it's on
again,
a platform people don't want to pay
people aren't going to pay for it.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were smart, they'd probably put out like the first episode on YouTube and like do it that way, which other streaming shows have done.
So, and then Jeremy Boring also had to step down this year. He got demoted this year,
Yeah, I
right?
mean,
So that's
you
all
could
happened
argue
this
he
year.
is the loser of the year, but that would actually imply he might have been a winner before. But yeah, I mean, Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro having a basically being the like the face of a dying movement is very appropriate.
I think he picked a fight with Tucker Carlson and lost. I think that's true. I think he came off as a loser at an Amfest. I think the Daily Wire's financial struggles are more evidence of that. I think he's the loser of the year. I think TPUSA is financially strong. You might say that they have
Yeah, I mean,
a
they
leadership
obviously had a
crisis. They
huge
do have a leadership crisis because Erica Kirk is not Charlie Kirk.
is not fit for the job.
She's not, and
I'm
part of that
sorry, you
is
can't not to be crass, but you can't mourn the death of your husband forever. You gotta be able to take the ball and run with it.
and this is not her place.
Yeah, it's not. I mean,
and I'm fine with her being a figurehead, but her being the operational leader
she
of
should probably be
TPUSA
a
is
better
not going to work.
chair than a
Yes,
CEO.
yes, that's what
You
I'm
just
saying.
handle the board meetings and like oversee the
Keep the vision of your husband alive, but she's not the person to execute it. She can't be, and she's not being the person to execute it. So I think Ben Shapiro is the loser of the year.
Yeah, because it's not just
criticisms
Shapiro,
of
it's also Daily Wire that fell off.
Right.
And he is the face of Daily Wire.
And he's the reason. His face is the reason. But it's also the Daily Wire. A couple other struggles to mention. Jordan Peterson and Dennis Prager have like health scares. So that's like a concern of Daily Wire's longevity. I don't know how affiliated Dennis Prager is with Daily Wire, but they've done a lot of content together.
He had like I won't say he's incapacitated, but yes, he couldn't.
And then Matt Walsh is wants to make movies, so that's something that he'll use the Daily Wire for. But at the same time, Matt Walsh does not need the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire needs Matt Walsh. So they have no bench because Andrew Clavin sucks. And Michael Knowles, I mean, he's good at drama content. He is very good at that. Like, I don't hate Michael Knowles at all. But I don't know how much he's going to carry a network. So I don't know. So I think loser of the year is Ben Shapiro. Winner of the year, I kind of had the idea of making Tucker Carlson the winner of the year, but I think that's a little bit more disputable than Ben Shapiro being the loser of the year.
I don't know if
Tucker Carlson did start a fight in conservative media and win. So that is a tremendous
he's
accomplishment.
been successful. I don't view Tucker as a leader. I view him as a means to an end, and that's all he is. So I don't necessarily know if he can win. It's like, does the hammer actually win, or is it the person using the hammer? And I picked the J6 prisoners as the winner of the year because they pretty much got their lives back. And again, there is like a tangible benefit to why voting for Donald Trump was necessary in 2024, and getting those people out of jail is a remarkable benefit. And I think previously we had them as losers of the year because their lives were essentially ruined over J6. So now they're the winners because they got their lives back from ground zero.
I think
I mean,
this is a fair comment on the Tucker Carlson thing. This is why I think it's a little bit more disputable because despite the fact that he interviewed Nick Fuentes, destroyed Ted Cruz, Tucker Carlson, shilling for Islam and being too friendly. Again, there's a little bit of that,
and again,
bleeding heart liberal in him,
you
which is why his takes are often cringeworthy.
I mean, yeah, his speech at AmFest wasn't very good at that comment. Obviously, I think he's made clarifying comments, which actually haven't been as bad as you would expect, because he's basically saying that the hatred for Islam in America is probably popped up.
Like there is a point there that's true,
Yes.
but he is soft. He is too soft on Islam, and that's a huge problem. And that's why, like, his victory is him being a winner of the year is a little bit more disputable.
That's why he's not a leader. He's a means to an end.
I think he's a good ally, good part of the coalition, but he's not. Yeah, I don't think he's the leader. Uh,
Now, as
Going
far
back
as
to the prisoners, you're right. I would expand that to all the political prisoners that were pardoned by Trump, because it wasn't just the J6ers; it's also like the pro-life
there's some
activists.
yeah,
So the Jewish Biden administration, Merrick Garland, who is Jewish, persecuted Christians, and which is natural to him, and you saw that with the pro-life prisoners who were arrested for praying. So you hate to see that.
I mean, another winner might be Palantir.
I think Palantir is just overblown.
I know, but
But
the stock is not overblown. It's done very well.
yeah, you know more about that than me. I'm a late investor on Palantir in general. But anyway, that concludes. We'll give political prisoners the winner of the year. And that is all of our awards. So we have some major announcements for the channel. Let's just do that. We wrap this up, especially as we're getting pretty long tonight. Announcements in 2026. We'll have a new book coming out eventually in 2026, and I'm telling you about it now so that I can actually work on it. I got like 3,000 words down. I don't know how long it's going to be. When I wrote Winning Not Winsome, I wanted to do 52,000 words for this book. I am not planning on doing 52,000 words for this book. The book title is The New Gay Church, The Sodomical Subversion of Sound Doctrine. It's going to be about Side B theology and sort of the nuts and bolts of how it came. It's going to be calling out some false teachers. It's going to be talking about the story of Side B theology and its rise and prominence in the church, the key figures and stuff like that. So that is the book that I will be putting out in 2026. I do not know who's going to be distributing the book or anything like that. So that is the first announcement. Number two, a little bit more controversial and spicy, but it is, I think, going to be integral to the future of this channel. So I'm going to be starting a new business sometime in 2026. I won't tell you about that business yet, but it will be integrated into Evangelical Dark Web as a live read. So obviously, every business has to make money. Evangelical Dark Web technically is a business, but I see a market, I see an opening in the marketplace of Christians, for Christians, and marketing to Christians in a unregulated industry that I think Christians should actually get in on. So I want to start a company to do that. And this is sort of monetizing Christians, but at the same way, this is helping Christians monetize themselves and to acquire wealth, and using ways that I'm more specialized in helping Christians do that. So that's a little bit of a tease of what the business will be. It will be more financial in nature to help out believers. So that is that is one thing that I want to do. So help Christians enrich themselves. And I think I want to use this business also to fund Christian media and as a lead generation. So that's my thoughts on that. Uh, so that's the first, that's the second announcement. So new business partnership with Evangelical Dark Web will be coming. And maybe you'll see it on some other platforms as the business grows. I'll let you know what it is. And then the third one is, you know what? I am actually interested in having more additional writers and team members for Evangelical Dark Web. So uh, if you are interested in doing that, I am interested in expanding. This past year we brought on Defiant Baptist. So that I think has worked out really well as far as an addition to the team. But I am having a hard time writing more than one article a day. I'm even having a hard time writing an article a day. Like it's kind of getting hard for me. I'm getting pulled in different directions. And I know other people are more passionate about certain subjects. Anthony loves the PCA stories and Presbyterian stories and drama, apparently. So my I am interested in expanding the team of writers that we have. I'll give as a requirement, you got to be able to affirm our statement of faith on the Evangelical Dark Web website. So that's just one requirement. And then if you're interested, either fill out the contact form on the website or DM me on the Twitter sphere or something like that. That is my those are my three announcements. I am interested in expanding, and I can tell you what the terms of that arrangement would be, because Evangelical Dark Web does make money, and I do give people money for their work. Uh, I give people more money for an article than that article would bring in. So just as an FYI, uh, in terms, I am very generous with the articles from a financial perspective. So those are my three announcements. Any questions?
For me, no, not
I
this
saw a
time.
question in the chat. Are you going to review Against the Waves by John Harris? I will not be reviewing that. I don't have the time, and I'm not particularly as interested in in reading and reviewing that book. Just in general, I just don't have it in me. So
I already said
I've
I
already
mainly read
reviewed
dead
Bonif.
people.
We've already reviewed these books. So I don't know if we would get good views as I don't know if those would do well as
Oh, I
videos,
did
but
the
we have
review.
reviewed both of
I
those books in articles
I did
form.
the review of Case for Christian Nationalism. We also had Stephen Wolf in the pod like a couple years back. So
Yeah, so we had him a while back. So those are the special announcements. Thank you all for sticking around this long. It's a longer stream than we normally do. Have a blessed night. Stay based. Christ is King, and we will catch you on